But welcome everybody to AI Horizons, to the February edition. So today we are joined with our Microsoft friends here. We already had some soft introductions. Katie gave a great introduction to herself and Chisholm. So Chisholm will be presenting a talk on empowering educators with M365 Copilot. So that sounds like a great presentation. I'm excited to dive more into that. But before we get started, a few quick announcements just on events happening around Penn State. So you probably saw on your calendars, the next AI Horizons was just scheduled for March 4th. That is a quick turnaround. So that is because we have the TLT Symposium on March 22nd. So we will have all hands on deck coming about halfway through March there. So I will drop the registration link for the symposium. If you are not familiar or have not attended before, we do invite you to come. We have a large AI presence at this year's symposium. So that will be hosted on a Saturday, March 22nd at the Penn Stater. So we do invite you. We will feed you breakfast and lunch. So please come hang out with us. So the next event we want to put on everyone's radar is AI Week, which will happen April 14th to the 17th. So we mentioned this last AI Horizons, but there is a link to, I don't think we had the website up and running yet, or the website wasn't up and running yet for AI Week, but now there's a website with more information on this year's event. It does not look like the schedule is available yet, but that should be up soon. So we will be presenting this same session, or Microsoft will be presenting this same session during AI Week, in addition to a part 2 of this. So you'll be able to revisit today's content as well as take it a step further in April. And the last announcement was just to stay connected to the AI Horizons chat. There's a lot of good information, a lot of good questions, class content popping up in there. One thing that I want to call out that I thought was super interesting was a faculty member from MIS 204 posted, they have an AI image contest in their course. Kyle Chalupzinski, I hope I pronounced that correct. But he posted Padlet links to his course in there, so you can go in and vote for your favorite student AI generated image. And there's some really interesting ones in there. So check out those Padlets, vote for his class. And that is just one of a bunch of cool things that's happening in AI Horizon. So check out that chat, stay connected. And with that being said, we're going to kick it over now to Microsoft and Chisholm to take us away on today's content. So Chisholm.
Awesome, thank you. Really appreciate the introduction and happy to be presenting to you guys today on behalf of AI Horizons. We have a great session in store for you around M365 Copilot. Do folks have access to M365 Copilot licenses who are here watching the presentation? Feel free to, I don't know, just react if you do have access to it. And if you've used it, just trying to, get an understanding of who has access to the licenses and who's been using it already. And as I'm going through this presentation, this is great. All right, perfect. I can see you all raising your hands. I appreciate that. As I'm going through this presentation, just because I know Katie had mentioned that we can't necessarily see the chat features, if folks happen to have questions, just feel free to come off mute and say them if you don't feel comfortable writing it in the chat. I'm happy to take a stop and answer your questions while the presentation is going on. But it will be challenging for me to see the chat or see the questions in the Q&A as they come up while I'm presenting. So again, feel free to interrupt if you have a pressing question or something that's on top of your mind. And I work with Katie very closely. I am your modern work specialist on behalf of Penn State, which means I focus on tools that are supposed to help you with collaboration and productivity. And so, of course, M365 Copilot, things like Copilot Chat are tools that are designed to boost your productivity here at Penn State. And so I'm going to show you a little bit about M365 Copilot, explaining how we got here, but then also going into a deeper dive demonstration of how you can utilize it to be more effective. right, awesome. So this presentation is going to be around transforming your organization with M365 Copilot. And so again, like I've been mentioning in today's session, we're going to explore how Copilot for M365 will revolutionize how your organization operates by enhancing productivity and collaboration and overall efficiency. And as I've mentioned before, I encourage you guys to actively participate, ask questions, share your thoughts throughout the session. All of your insights and experiences are valuable, and we'll have a period where we kind of go through how you can actively prompt to get more effective outputs from Copilot. But without further ado, let's dive into the world of Copilot and M365. And so sure, many of you guys are familiar with the concept of generative AI technology by now, but like if we really just take a step back and look at what's been happening since AI has entered our lives, we're experiencing a huge diffusion in the tech industry on an enormous scale. And so for context, when you take a look at this graph, um, you're going to see how long it took for each of these solutions to reach 100 million users. And as you can see with the mobile phone, it took 16. The internet, it took 7, Facebook 4.5, but ChatGPT just took a whopping 3 months. And that goes to show you that the growth curve is no longer, a slope. It's almost becoming a vertical line. And that just goes to show you how excited folks are about the potential for AI to make everybody way more productive. So AI has come to work, right? Uh, Most of the organizations that you're a part of are in the process of transforming on the ground floor, and folks are bringing AI into the workplace. A Microsoft 2024 Work Index report found that 75% of global knowledge workers are using AI at work, and so that rate has nearly doubled over the last 6 months. And so when we really think about it, right, and I'm sure you guys can relate, the volume of data, the volume of emails, the volume of Teams chats that you have to deal with on a daily basis has only continued to accelerate, and it can be challenging to process it all. And so with this intense pace of work, it can be overwhelming. And so we see M365 Copilot as a tool to help you spend more time on the strategic and creative work that you care about, as opposed to, more of the administrative tasks. And so when we're taking a look at M365 Copilot, right, this is your comprehensive solution for AI transformation. So number one, you get a consistent UI for AI. So when you engage with Copilot, you are going to get a standard user experience across the web, across desktop, and across mobile. Number two, it's integrated in all the tools that you use every day. So that's including Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote, Teams. And so Microsoft 365 Copilot is grounded in the Microsoft Graph, and that provides trillions of signals of work data, which enables Copilot to provide you more personalized and more relevant responses to your queries. You do now have access to the platform for agents and extensibility. I'll go over that a little bit in our demonstration, but that will actually be more so reserved for the Penn State AI Week in April, where I'll conduct another session and we'll do a deeper dive into how to really get in the weeds around building agents. And so what this ultimately means is you can connect additional business data sources, so CRM, ERP, or custom applications that allow Copilot to reason over all of your data. And so you have the ability to choose from 1,800 plus pre-built connectors, or you can utilize our no-code, low-code options through Copilot agents, and that can help you as well. And then when we think about security, I know that's always top of mind for folks. Copilot inherits your M365 security, permissions, policies, and administrative controls. So there's already built-in data governance with advanced enterprise data protection to adhere to responsible AI. And of course, you have flexible purchasing and deployment. So we provide flexibility that will enable all employees to get access to AI and access to agents. And that can be done through a subscription or a pay-as-you-go option. And of course, finally, measuring the impact of AI, right? We want to make sure you're getting your bang for your buck. We provide tools to accelerate adoption, to measure AI impact and business value within your organization. And so this includes tools like the Copilot Lab, Learning Academy to help you drive skilling and adoption at Penn State, and of course the Copilot dashboard, which helps you quantify the benefits that you're receiving from using M365 Copilot. And so, of course, M365 Copilot is built on trust. And so what does that ultimately mean? You guys trust Microsoft with your sensitive data. And over the years, we've built that foundation of trust through our commitments to protect you guys. And so the same commitments and controls apply to prompts and responses when it comes to M365 Copilot. So ultimately, what does that mean? We secure your data at rest and in transit. And so we help protect your data with encryption and through rigorous security controls. So there is data isolation between tenants, so you can feel comfortable using that. And of course, you at Penn State ultimately control your data. We're using a time-tested approach to data privacy. And so again, that's grounded in our commitment to control, to allow you guys to have control over your data that's put in the cloud. And so in other words, what we're telling you here is that you guys control your data. Microsoft is guaranteeing this contractually with our commitments to you. And of course, your data is not being used to train or enrich any underlying foundational models. So your prompts, your responses, your web search queries, if you're utilizing M365 Copilot or Copilot for the web, they're not going to be used to train any models. And of course, you are protected against AI security and copyright risks. I know that can be a concern for folks. And so we help safeguard and provide assurance that none of those risks will be applicable to you, whether that's from a harmful content perspective or prompt injections. So if there's any concerns around copyright or material detection, you are covered with the Microsoft commitment. And of course, almost all discussions about AI pertain to the cloud or online experiences. And so when we think about search and apps and Microsoft Copilot, a lot of people don't realize this, but AI also runs on Surface as well too. And so generally speaking, AI on Surface helps drive unique and personalized experiences. And so the latest processors are optimized for AI and can run on AI locally. So Microsoft and Surface are uniquely positioned to deliver cloud and client AI computing. And so Surface is going to bring the software and hardware together on your device so that you can get the most optimized experience using M365 Copilot. And again, can't emphasize this enough. So Copilot for M365 is your AI assistant that you can trust. Again, you are getting access to, security. And so we know this is a common concern for customers, whether Copilot will give users access to content that they previously didn't have access to. And the answer is no. Copilot's going to honor your existing permissions and policies for data access, so folks won't be getting into information that they shouldn't have access to. And so your sensitive data is protected. When Copilot is used to create new outputs, those outputs will inherit the label of the source content, which makes it easy for you to protect that content with existing data label protection policies. And then for even more advanced security scenarios, right, that might require blocking or restricting risky assets.
Looks like you're muted, T-Sum, so you might want to come off mute.
Sorry, I apologize. I don't know how long I was muted. But again, just for your edification, there's more advanced security scenarios that require blocking or restricting access. Your organizations can utilize that through Microsoft's risk-based conditional access and endpoint management. And of course, with Purview, you can also help detect Copilot usage that's out of compliance with regulations or organizational policies that adhere to Penn State. And of course, you have access to privacy. Copilot, again, you're in control of your data. The data is encrypted at rest and in transit. And so when we think about Copilot scenarios in education, or specifically Copilot scenarios within Penn State University, there's a litany of ways you guys can utilize M365 Copilot. And this is, a combination of things that we've seen, you all already utilizing, but also folks that we work with utilizing as well to make their work more productive and more efficient. And so whether that's from a curriculum and instruction perspective, right? So curriculum planning or, empowering a more blended experience, Copilot can be helpful there. When it comes to school leadership, or district leadership or human resources, we found folks have been utilizing M365 Copilot to create onboarding and professional development materials as well, keeping track of monthly meetings or recurring meetings. We've also found folks in operations utilizing Copilot. IT has been utilizing Copilot as well too. And then of course, administrative support and staff. We know that a lot of folks, right, we live and potentially die in Outlook. And so it's always helpful to have M365 Copilot right by your side to help you when it comes to email triage. And that's something I'll help go over with during the demonstration. And of course, we have folks in finance who've been utilizing M365 Copilot as well. And so there's a litany of ways you can utilize this tool. And so we'll start to dive into those shortly. But before we do that, I wanted to kind of touch base on the art of prompting, right? And so when it comes to using M365 Copilot, I like to think of it as, garbage in, garbage out, right? If you put a good prompt together, you will get a very good response from Copilot. And so when it comes to potentially prompting, right, if you want to get the best response, it's important to focus on a few key elements when you're phrasing your Copilot prompts, right? So what's your goal, right? So what response do you want from Copilot? So we want to know that you have clearly defined what you want to achieve in your prompt. And so this will help Copilot understand the desired outcomes and tailor its response accordingly. And then ground it in context. Why do you need it? Who's involved? Who's the audience, right? Help Copilot understand the situation and mention why you need that information, right? And then, of course, the source. Which information sources or samples do you want Copilot to use, right? You have the ability to specify any particular source or example that Copilot should refer to when it's generating its response. And so whether that's a document that you found on the internet, a document that you've been utilizing internally, Copilot's going to ensure that this information is going to be relevant and accurate. And of course, your expectations, right? So how should Copilot respond to best meet your expectations? So you want to outline your expectations for the response, and this includes, right, your format, your tone, right? So maybe you want the response in paragraph form. Maybe you want it in a table form, right? Or your tone, right? How do you want Copilot to respond to you? And what level of detail do you want Copilot to include when it gives you its response back? And so including all these ingredients in your prompts will ensure that Copilot provides the most accurate and useful response for you. And so when we look at this and break this down on how this applies to a specific prompt, right, you can see this here, your goal, context, your source, and your expectations. And so potentially we might ask Copilot, okay, can you generate 3 to 5 bullet points on a specific topic, right? And then we want Copilot to prepare us for a meeting with a client and discuss their phase 3 of their brand campaign, right? And so now we've grounded our prompt in context. And of course, when it comes to sourcing, what information do we want Copilot to use? We can say focus on an email and Teams chats since June. So all the emails that you've had in correspondence with this specific customer or client, on top of the Teams chat conversations or video recordings you've had, Copilot's going to utilize that information. And of course, we tell Copilot, from our expectations, please use simple language so I can get up to speed quickly. And that's how you can develop a very clear and concise prompt.
And hey, Chisholm, there's a bunch of questions that are coming in through the Q&A, so I wanted to do it. I think the two are very similar about for the source part of the prompt. How do you refer to the sources? How do you give Copilot the sources? And how specific can you be with the sources? For example, can you ask it to only provide academic journal entries or from only sites ending with .edu?
Yes, you would be able to ask Copilot to do that. And so I'll show you in the demonstration how to ground your prompt in a specific source. So say I wanted to pull up, I wanted Copilot to essentially put together an agenda based off of the conversations that I and Katie have had over the past, 3 months, right? Specifically around Penn State. So what I would do is I would specifically tell Copilot, and I would probably do this in Teams, and I would tell Copilot, hey, can you put together an agenda based off the conversations that Katie and I have had around Penn State? And what I would do is I would ground the Copilot response in that source with Katie's name. And so I would essentially just use a /, and then I would type in Katie's name, and it would know, okay, Katie Perone is who we're referring to. So look for information, particularly as it relates to her. And I would say utilize my Teams chats and emails. And so then it would start to compile all the conversations we've had. And I would say, going back in the last 3 months, right? And so now I've grounded this prompt, and I'll show you what that potentially looks like during the demonstration. So you see an example. So if it's a specific document that you're looking for, like I could also go into Copilot in Outlook, and I could be like, hey, me and Katie talked about this specific document as it relates to Penn State University. I was like, maybe it was like their Penn State's 5-year plan, right? A huge PDF. And I was like, pull that document up and put together a list of questions that we might potentially want to ask around strategy and also where they stand on some of the developments with this plan. So there's there's different ways you can kind of ground in, that information. But then also, again, I think someone asked about, I think, specific websites. Yes, so like if you said you could tell Copilot specifically use websites that end in .edu or .org if you're utilizing the web application and you're not specifically searching within the Penn State University wide tenant. And I think,
There was, sorry, just
No,
trying
go
to get through them so you can get to the demo. Are there different account model levels for Copilot, or is what we have the only account/model level?
there are different models and levels. So for this, right now we're looking at M365 Copilot, which is the paid license. There is Copilot Chat, and so that is essentially a free version of Copilot. It does not have necessarily the personal assistance, so it's not embedded into Outlook, PowerPoint, Word, OneNote, OneDrive, things of that nature. But it does have the ability to allow you to create agents, utilize web queries, and it is still providing you with enterprise level protection. And so there are levels of Copilot, I would say. Yes, those are the 2 levels for the purposes of this conversation.
Okay, I think that maybe getting into the demo, because there's a lot of like functionality questions, so maybe we can sort of get there, and
Yeah.
I think many of the answers could be
Gone. Yeah, I think we can
Yeah.
tackle that. Perfect.
And just as you're pulling that up, Maggie did have a question. So Microsoft has access to all of our data and any Microsoft products we're using. It is part of your Microsoft Graph. We don't have access to your data. It resides within the Penn State University tenant. It is within the Microsoft Graph. The tools are there, but all of the tools are just pulling from what actually exists within the Penn State University tenant. So it's not like we can go in and pull the data from Penn State University's tenant. It is just what exists within your tenant, your particular, what we call Microsoft Graph, and what you have access to. So there's obviously, Maggie, you don't have access to Marianne's data that might be within her SharePoint or her OneDrive. It is, the tools are only going to give you access to the data that you have access to. And it doesn't come back to us. It resides within your, your tenant's boundaries.
That's perfect. Thank you, Katie. All right, so I'm going to jump into the demo right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start sharing a different part of my screen so you guys can see this.
And also, there's a good, sort of question, comment in there. You have wide access to Copilot Chat. Not everybody has access to Copilot 365. If you can just be very specific about what is Copilot 365 and what is Copilot Chat, that would be great.
Yes. So M365 Copilot is your personal assistant. And so M365 Copilot is the paid license for Microsoft Copilot. And so that means that you have generative AI technology embedded into all of your M365 applications. So it's in Outlook. So say you want to do email triage, which we'll go over. Say you've taken a vacation, you came back and you have hundreds of emails. It would usually take you, maybe a day, possibly a day and a half to get through that. You can have Copilot essentially go through your emails and say, hey, go through my unread emails, provide me, a list of, call outs where I need to follow up. And that will speed up that process. Like what would have taken me a day and a half, I can get that done probably in 40 minutes. And so you would be able to essentially do that too. It's also embedded in PowerPoint. So if we want to make an executive level PowerPoint presentation from a document that we created in Word, we can do that. And I'll show you what that looks like. If you want to utilize Copilot in Excel, that's also that has a capability built into it from M365 Copilot. And so say you're doing data analysis, maybe you're using pivot tables, Copilot can help you there. If you are not an Excel guru and you've ever struggled with, formulas and embedding them, Copilot will help you with the formulas. So you don't necessarily have to worry about that anymore. If you're looking for specific documents in like OneDrive, you can ask Copilot and Copilot can find it for you. I know we've all been in that space where there's a document we had access to and we have no idea where it is. You ask Copilot, Copilot will find it, or emails that might be buried in your Outlook and you're looking for a specific one. By sourcing and providing context with Copilot. So say the email came specifically from Katie, and I was like, it's probably within the last 6 months, and this was somewhat the title, or this was the context of the document. Copilot will look and source that information for you. And so that's what M365 Copilot does. With Copilot Chat, which is your free version, Copilot Chat allows you to you have generative AI capabilities through Copilot on the web. So those types of queries, right? You also have the ability with Copilot Chat where you can build an agent, which I'll show you briefly what that looks like by the end of this demo using M365 Copilot. And then I'll explain what the differences are between the two technologies. But for now, I'm just going to jump into the demo. And then again, feel free to jump off mute, or if Katie, you see questions, you can just let me know. Okay, the thumbs up. Can you guys hit my screen, my Teams chat?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So what I will usually start my week off doing, I know we have a shorter week this week with President's Day. I'll come into Copilot. So Copilot's going to be sitting here when you have M365 Copilot at the top corner of your chats, right above your favorites. And so I go in here and I click that. And I, like many of you, sometimes suffer from the Sunday scaries, or I guess in this case, since we had Monday off, it was Monday scaries for me. And I'm like, hey, what do I need to prepare for this week? So a prompt I usually use is I'll tell Copilot to act as my personal assistant, summarize my meetings for the next 24 hours in a concise table, and add recommendations on preparation if needed. Now, some of the meetings I have are recurring meetings on a week-to-week basis. The great thing about this is Copilot knows that, right? Copilot has followed me into these meetings, so it knows how much time I spend in them, what we talk about. And so it also can let me know, hey, these are some of the follow-ups you need to be prepared for. And it can let me know how much time I need to prep for in anticipation of this meeting. So I put that prompt in there, Copilot responded. And again, remember I said when you're contextually asking Copilot questions, I asked specifically for this to be summarized in a concise table. So it's listed out the time of each meeting in the next 24 hours, the name of the meeting, and if I decide to click on this, it will take me to that meeting specifically on my calendar. It's listed out who the organizer is. So for this meeting right now, AI Horizons. And the recommendation it's providing for me right now is saying that I should review the agenda. There was an external link that was removed for my privacy, but be ready to discuss how M365 Copilot can empower educators. And so that's what we're doing right now. It's listing out the rest of my day. I have an East Modern Work Usage Scrum, Copilot Get to Green. I have an accessibility event with the University of Delaware. I have a monthly unified meeting. I have a meeting with a manager, and it can let me know things that we've talked about here. And so if I want now, at any point in time, I can go and scroll to the bottom of this, quite a few meetings here, And I can copy this table if I don't want it to just sit here, right? And I could drop it into OneNote or somewhere else. It's completely up to me. I can leave it in Copilot. It's not going to go anywhere, right? And so if I need additional context, I can say provide more details on the AI Horizons meeting, and maybe it'll probably provide more details on that. Okay, and so it's letting us know for this specific meeting that we're in actually right now, the time, who the attendees are, including you all, the lovely folks on this call, recommendations. And again, if I click this, it will take me directly to Outlook and let me know additional information. And so that is just one prompt I use to just kind of prepare for my day. And so again, with Copilot, you can see and view prompts, right? If you're not sure what to ask, you have the ability to click this right down here, and Copilot will already provide you with, potential prompts that you can use to kind of get started. So you're not even starting from scratch when it comes to prompting, right? So another thing might happen. So say you joined Penn State University recently, and or for me, say I joined Microsoft recently, and somebody has put time on my calendar and I don't know who this person is. I'm not sure, what they might want to talk about. And so I asked Copilot for a little help. And so what I can do is I can say to Copilot, hey, can you use this LinkedIn profile to come up with questions? And so the person I selected here is Jared Spataro, who is one of our VPs here at Microsoft. So say he put time on my calendar. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know too much about him, but I wanted to get up to speed. Now it said, based off of his LinkedIn profile and his role as a corporate vice president at Microsoft, you might consider asking something like this, right? Vision for M365 Copilot, key challenges, success stories, future innovations, things of that nature, right? Or I could even go further, right? I think someone asked a question about how do I ground Copilot in specific responses? So say Katie puts time on my calendar and I've never met Katie before. I don't know who she is. I was like, I'll ask Copilot, tell me about, and what I'll do is I'll use this / and you see all of this information comes up. So these are previous files I've touched most recently, but I can just go to people, files, meetings, right? And I can get recaps. And so for now, I'm just going to type in Katie's name. And so if Katie had put time on my calendar and I wanted to get to know who she is before we start chatting, it will let me know who Katie is and what she works on. So Katie Perron is an account executive at Microsoft based in New York. She reports to Rasul, a director. She's been actively involved in various meetings and projects with you, including Microsoft Penn State Weekly by Sync. She has a strong focus on the education sector. She works on securing significant deals. She's been a key participant in various group chats and email exchanges. Katie, does that look about right? Did that do you justice?
I think so. It also says that I'm collaborative and proactive. I like that. Thank you, Copilot.
Right. Copilot knows all. So that's just a
I'd
quick thing you
I'd
can
like
do.
to know what they would say about some of our other peers who may be less collaborative.
That's true. That's true. But we will leave that for another day. And so what we'll do is we'll quickly switch gears from here, and we're going to jump into Microsoft Word. So I'm opening a blank document. And what you'll see here, when you open Microsoft Word using M365 Copilot, you'll see your Copilot skill. That's what I like to call this thing since it's so colorful. And this will help you describe. You can prompt in here, and Copilot will provide you responses to your queries. And then you'll see another one up here. So these two Copilot buttons are different. This one is for generative responses. This one is for after you've generated the response. If you have questions about the document that you're unsure of, this one will help you interpret and answer what those questions are. So say I come in here and I ask Copilot to do this for us. So I will say,
You're on mute again. Somehow you're accidentally muting yourself, but we can see your prompt in there.
Sorry, I apologize. I'm wondering what's happening there. But yes, so using this prompt guide, free form text field. And so I'm telling Copilot that the sessions will be held each Monday in April and May of this calendar year, and they will be an hour long. So we'll come in here and we'll have Copilot generate this information for us.
Also, Chisholm, could you just zoom in a little bit more so people can see the content a little bit better?
Yes. Awesome.
Thank you.
And so what Copilot will do right now is it'll ask me, are there specific files you want to use currently that you have access to help generate this document? And I can select all of them if I want. For now, I'm just going to unselect everything and let Copilot do it itself with no specific files. Okay, so Copilot has developed this invitation to attend the entry-level training, talking about the training, the session details, the training schedule, right? April and May, the Mondays, how to join, and our best regards, right? So now we have a document here. We're not starting from scratch. If we like what we see, we can keep it. If we don't like what we see, we can regenerate it, which we'll do very quickly. And so Copilot is regenerating this for us. Okay, it's done that. If we hate it, we can discard it, but we don't hate it. So we'll keep it for now. And then we'll ask Copilot to add some additional information to this because we're not done. And we'll say brainstorm additional ideas for Copilot training sessions. And Copilot will build upon what it's already done, and it will add that in here as well. And so Copilot has listed out interactive workshops, role-specific training, gamification. And the great thing about Copilot is if you list out, hey, I want 10 unique different Copilot training sessions, Copilot will give you 10 unique different sessions. So depending on how specific you are with your prompt will determine what Copilot will do for you. So now what we'll do here is we'll switch gears.
So Chisholm, there's a lot about this is a lot in the paid licenses. If you were using Copilot for the web, it would not be in Word, but would you be able to get something that's similar with the free version that's in there?
Yes. So you wouldn't open Word. You would essentially just go into Copilot. And
then maybe can you
on the web essentially, and you would essentially do the same
could you
thing.
show that from a browser? Because I think that because it's not in Teams. Yeah.
So I would come in here from a browser. Please excuse all the tabs I have open already. And I would go to copilot.microsoft.com, or you would go to copilot.microsoft.com, right? And so I'm just going to click here, sign into my work account so that you guys can see what the interface would look like here. And so you would have, if you're just using the free version of Copilot, you're only going to see the web access here, right? You won't see this work tab. If you have the M365 Copilot tab, you're going to be able to see both. And so when you're utilizing the work tab, that means it's utilizing information that exists in your tenant that you have access to develop responses to whatever query you have. When you're using the web, it's simply using web-based solutions, articles, things of that nature. So essentially, I could type that same prompt in here. Okay. And I would have Copilot generate this information. It's already generated, took literally 2 seconds. And if I want to now copy this information, I can just click copy it here, and then I can go into Word later on and I can paste it into Word if I wanted to. So that's how it would look like if you were using Copilot Chat. Okay, so I'm going to go back into Word very quickly and discard this. And so I'm going to ask Copilot to do this for us very quickly. So I'm going to have Copilot create an executive summary as to why we should build a data and AI practice for our organization. Document's going to have 3 sections. So I'm giving it context. First, it needs to explain data and AI and how they're trending initiatives for Penn State. Second, it should also outline top benefits for data and AI. And the final section should list out steps we need to take to build the practice.
Tisam, did you ground that in any documents?
I have not grounded that in any documents, but if I wanted to, Copilot, I can simply like click the clip button, the attach button, and I can ground it in a document that I have found, that maybe a PDF that I pulled off the web or a PDF internally. I can do that. Right now, what it's doing is it's using just work data. So because it's pulling information from the Microsoft tenant, it's taking information from there as to of how Penn State would potentially build an AI practice.
Okay,
And
so in this example, this is just pulling from stuff that's in that Microsoft graph that we said before. But if you did want to ground it in documents, could you potentially, put it into the prompt that's below and then say like also utilize this and then attach like maybe an example?
Yes. Yeah, of course. So see if there's a document that I have, but let me. So if I was now coming back in here and I put that same prompt in there.
And as you're speaking to this, I will also speak to clarifying the free/paid version again. You are correct that the Copilot chat that's in the web is a part of your Penn State license. So it is not necessarily free. It is included in your Penn State license. The M365 Copilot license is the additional features that are available via your apps in Copilot or M365. So that's like all of your productivity apps, like as we were sitting here, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams. That is, yes, like the super version being demoed, but the Copilot chat that's available via the web is something.
Yes.
Muted this time. Can't press that space bar, even accidentally. So yes, the Copilot web version is included within your subscription. So thank you very much for the clarification, Zach.
And so you can see this prompt is, we've placed it right back here. Essentially, if I wanted to reference specific content, I would click this right here, and I can attach whatever files I want. There's not a specific file for this that I had in mind, but say I wanted to use this PowerPoint or something, anything, I guess I would use the PowerPoint that we're looking at. I would now attach that. Again, Copilot's let me know from a security label perspective the sensitivity of this document, and I could generate this, and we would essentially move forward from there. So it's as simple as that, to attach a specific document, and Copilot will reference that information.
Could you potentially put in the prompt, like this was a question?
Sorry, you went mute again.
Yep, trying to keep that. A question that was below about how it finds documents. Do you could you say find this document and it will find it, or do you actually have to put that attach button?
So here I would probably come in and I would look at my files, essentially. If I know the name of the file, I can include that information. But like, so say if the file is on your OneDrive, or maybe you wanted to use information from a meeting, or it's in your emails, right? You can use that information. So you have the ability to kind of just pick whatever file, wherever you've saved it, whether it's in your OneDrive, on your desktop, or in your documents, wherever you're saving files, you have the ability to just select that file.
Okay. Couple of good questions in the chat too. Does Copilot have proactive capabilities? Can it for urgency, or does it require prompt every time to initiate activity?
Sorry, you had cut out at a moment.
Can it monitor, can it be proactive? Can it monitor email for urgency, or does it require each time to initiate activity?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So essentially, like if I wanted to go into Outlook and say, hey, highlight a specific email if it comes from my manager and like highlight it in red, something like that, like so I know that this email has come through. I assume that might be along the lines of what the question might be asking. Preemptively, I think you would still need to prompt it. I haven't actually tried that because I already have rules, I guess, like if a specific email comes through from a specific person or something of that nature, that it will it will notify me because the email comes out in bold and in different colors. But I actually haven't tried that with Copilot myself um, proactively. I don't know if if I try to stick a rule in there with Copilot, if it'll do that, but I will.
So you have stumped us, Jacob. So we will play around with this and we'll get back to you on this one.
Yes. Awesome.
Also, there is in Copilot Chat Web, what became of the former, for precise versus balanced versus creative, or enable disable GPT 4.0 button. Can we tell Copilot we want to trustable factual data only? How do we tell them? How do we tell Copilot we want, certain things?
So I think that comes back to the grounding and the source data that you want to utilize. Similarly to the question around like, hey, only pull information from websites that end in .org or edu. It comes down to the prompting. If there are specific documents that you want to include, I would advise attaching those documents to the prompt so that Copilot knows, hey, source from this information specifically, or source from, like, if you're writing credible, I wouldn't just say like source from credible sources, because then it becomes, with Copilot, becomes a subjective thing of what is credible versus not. But if you're saying source from credible sources that end in .edu or .org, or are coming specifically from academic journals, then Copilot would focus on that.
Also, it says the PSU version of Copilot has a size limit of 1 megabyte for attachments, way too small for most of my uses.
Okay. I will need to double check into that 1 megabyte per attachment. I believe you. I just don't know because I haven't run into any issues in terms of things that I've been attaching. So I will look into that for you all.
Okay, Daniel stumped us too, so we'll get back to you, Daniel. We'll contact Zach about that.
Awesome. Okay. And so I'm going to quickly just create something in Word and then move us to PowerPoint and show you how you can create an executive level presentation. So we'll go back to that data and AI example. Okay. So Copilot has done this for us. So we have an executive summary for building a data and AI practice at Penn State. And we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to add a section that highlights the types of people and skills that we need in order to make the practice successful. All right, so Copilot's done that for us. We're going to keep this document, and what we're going to do is just going to save it. Hopefully. All right. Okay, so we've saved that document. We're going to open PowerPoint up really quickly. I'm going to open up a blank presentation. And so you will notice our Copilot Skittles right over here. And we'll just say we want to create a presentation. And so it'll say create a presentation about what? And we're just going to include this information, the document that we just created right now. And we're going to have Copilot generate slides for us. In PowerPoint with Copilot, you have access to Narrative Builder, which is what you're seeing here. So it's already building out the topics of discussion for your PowerPoint slides, and it's listing out, information that you want to include on it. If you want to add information or add a new topic, you can. If you want to get rid of something, you can. If you want to change, the positioning of one document versus another, you have the ability to do that. So it's all up to you. And if you want to continue to ground it in additional documentation, you can. For now, we'll just have Copilot generate some slides for us as a starting point. That way we don't have to start from ground zero.
And as we are waiting for this to do that, is there a guide? So do we have prompt guides that are available? What are some of the information that we have available that they can have a tape behind?
Awesome. I will drop in the chat or send via email to Zach to disseminate information around like prompt guiding, or course if you're interested and you'd rather take like a Microsoft Learn course, all that type of information. I'll make sure to include as many resources as possible so that you guys feel confident and comfortable. I'll also share the slides around prompt guiding and provide examples of different prompts you can utilize and play around with at your leisure.
Awesome. And another chat is as it's building these, can you ask Copilot to edit an existing PowerPoint to whittle it down from 30 slides to 20 slides while retaining essential ideas? So like make it more concise?
Yes. So because I wasn't super clear with this, I just said make a presentation. If I had said make a presentation with 10 slides, it would have made this 10 slides instead. If I want to, it'll also add speaker notes as well, which is great. So if you want to add those in, Copilot will include that information for you, which is great for the slides. If you want to change specific information on the slides, like, oh, I don't like this picture, or find a new picture or background for this slide, change the font to this on all the slides, or the color, you have the ability and the capabilities to do that too.
Meaty presentation that it's building here.
Yeah. I should have had it make a smaller presentation.
Well, I think that we only have a couple of minutes left. Are there any other pressing questions that we could either throw in the Q&A, or if anybody wants to come off mute as we are wrapping up, since Copilot is building us a beautiful presentation.
Mm-hmm. And while it's building this presentation, I will also show you what Copilot looks like in Outlook, because I know we didn't get a chance to see that. But say, for example, somebody sends you an email and you've been out of the office, and we've all received that long email chain, and nobody really wants to go from the bottom to the top reading to figure out what happened. We have this ability to provide a summary by Copilot. So Copilot's going to scan that entire email chain, and it will let you know exactly what was discussed right up here. So you don't have to go all the way down reading through that information. That is super helpful. If I want to generate my own emails, this is what it would look like with Copilot. I would simply start a new email, and it will say, do you want to draft with Copilot? And I would say, yes, of course. And maybe I would say to Copilot, going to tell it to draft an email introducing myself to the VP of IT and CIO at Penn State to schedule a meeting about some initiatives I've been working on and where I stand on ideas that I would like to run by him, and I can include potential dates and agenda items. So for the most part, we don't usually write, full blown out emails anymore at Microsoft. Copilot will get that email started for us, so we're not doing anything from scratch. If I want to change the tone of this email, I can change the tone of it. If I want Copilot to write like me, what I would do is I would simply feed Copilot my old emails and say, hey, analyze my emails. And based off of my prose and writing style, this is how I want you to construct emails going forward. And Copilot would now do that for me. But you can see Copilot has started this email to David already, talking about the progress we've made on key projects. It's listed out dates, March 21st at 10 a.m., Wednesday, Friday, things of that nature, right? If you were actually sending this email to somebody in your organization, you would now just potentially include their schedule on the email. And Copilot, again, you can utilize Copilot to schedule a meeting. So in that previous email that I was looking at, say I don't want to go back and forth with the entire group, I can now just come here and I can say schedule with Copilot, and Copilot will now look at everyone's calendars because, again, it's using that information within the Penn State tenant, or in this case, the Microsoft tenant, and it will find the time where everybody is available and it will list it out for you and you can select from there. So that's just a few of the things you can do in Outlook. Again, if I wanted it to go through my emails that are unread, I can have Copilot do that. And I could tell it to provide me information regarding follow-ups and things of that information. If I want to look through my calendar and figure out when my next meeting is with a specific person, Copilot's already prompting me to do that. Or jumpstart a FAQ, generate ideas. The list goes on. One quick thing I wanted to show you guys before is the ability to build agents, which you guys have the capability to do. And so what would happen now is when you're utilizing Copilot, once you go into this tab here, you'll see a sign that says Get Agents. So agents that already exist or people in your organization have built, or you can create an agent. And so what I'll do here is show you an example of what that looks like and how quickly you can build an agent within your organization. Okay, so we would simply go to create an agent. Now we tell Copilot create an agent that is an guide for students at Penn State University that are majoring in aerospace engineering. One second. That's why.
As you're doing that, how big of a problem is hallucination with these sorts of use cases? What should we look out for if we're trying to avoid hallucinations?
The rule of thumb is, right, like when you think about Copilot, it is exactly that. It is your Copilot. Like you have the final say so. So you shouldn't create information or documentation through Copilot and not actually read through it and then just, take it as law. It's doing the underlying work for you, but you should definitely read through it just to make sure that there's nothing in there that's crazy. Because once you send it, right, you have authorship over that work. There is the propensity for it to hallucinate, but generally Copilot is getting better and better each day. As more folks use it and provide feedback, Copilot improves. But you should definitely read through the information that it's providing, just in case.
And a lot of the information that it provides will sort of have like a hyperlink that will take you to that source. So, you know, I usually like click on that hyperlink and I just make sure that that is something that I did actually do or did actually send, or it is a reliable source of information that I trust. So yeah, just a little bit of verification. And then also Zach asked, Chisholm, you mentioned that you can train your Copilot on your old emails. Where's the data stores if it's trained on all of that data?
So you said you can train the Copilot on your previous email.
And where is the data store? That would be in your Exchange, right? Like in your
that would be in Exchange.
Yeah, so we call your information that's stored within your Microsoft tenant the Microsoft graph. So that is, you know, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, all of the data that is within that big Microsoft tenant that you have available to you. So if it is, you know, if it's within that that Exchange or SharePoint or somewhere within the Microsoft ecosystem, it'll be able to pull it from there.
So I just quickly created this agent here. And what I did is I just told it what I wanted. So this is an aerospace engineering guide for students at Penn State. And I just simply said, create a guide for them as they're going through their undergrad journey. It gave me an option to name it. And so at the end, I went to configure here, and it puts all this information in just based off of me writing that prompt. What I did is I took a document. It was the Penn State Aerospace Engineering Guide, essentially, that shows the classes that you are required to take. And so now that I've done that, that document has been tethered to this specific agent, and I'll say there are no other refinements, and I'll just create this agent very quickly and show you its capabilities and how you can use it to ground documentation. And so whether it's, you know, onboarding questions, HR related questions, like can you use resources within Penn State for outside projects? If you have documents and things like that that you don't necessarily want to go through, you have the ability to do that. So within this aerospace engineering guide, right? It might say, I can ask, it's already prompting based off of the information here. So it's like, what are the course requirements for aerospace engineering majors at Penn State University? And it's using the document that I uploaded. And now any student who wants to utilize this agent has the ability to simply type this in versus sending an email, you know, to the advisor or trying to look it up on the website and figure all this information out. And so it quickly spit out all of this information, and it's listing out the credits, the general education requirements, everything is here. And there are tons of other prompts and different ways you can use this, whether it's for curriculum building. There's really no limitation on what you can do with Agent Builder. And so I'll stop for there, just based off of where we are at in time, and see if there are any questions.
we are over time. So we'll just ask for any last questions, and thank you all for sticking around.
Yeah.
I listed in the Q&A all the way back at the front my contact information, but we're more than happy to answer any other questions offline. If you needed anything, feel free to reach out to me, and I can you know, or I'm sure that that Zach could get you in touch with me also, and we can work on any questions that you may have.
Likewise. Thank you, everybody. Yes. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Chisholm. Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Microsoft, for coming today and putting together this great presentation. Answer Carmina's quick question in chat. No, Agent Builder is not available in the free version. That is also included in the M365 Copilot version. But as Katie mentioned, any questions, feel free to reach out to them directly or send them my way, and we can always send Microsoft a full list of questions on there. Yeah, so We're over time, so that is all for today. A recording of this will be available in AI Horizons. If you have any questions, continue the conversation, definitely check out AI Horizons and keep connected there. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much. We'll see you at AI Week.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.